We're joined this morning by David Godwin, who's in town for the literary festival Kalam, which means pen in Bengali. David was a publisher for many years, working at Hanman Seckers and then Jonathan Cape, where he personally secured writers such as Graham Swift and Ben Okri. In 1995, he broke with the corporate world of publishing to become a literary agent instead, beginning David Godwin Associates alongside his wife Heather. Nearly 20 years later, the agency is still based in Covent Garden, and despite having only 5 members on staff, is one of London's leading agencies, representing a diverse and impressive set of writers, including the acclaimed Indians Aravind Adiga and Arundhati Roy, both of whom have won the coveted Man Booker Prize, as well as the incomparable Vikram Seth, whose name comes up every year when discussion turns to who might well be selected for the Nobel Prize.
He begins talking about coming to Calcutta for the first time.
Can you just tell us briefly, just your impressions of the place initially?
I need to be careful here. I mean, as you say, being here 2 days, I was wondering how different it was going to be. Actually, I've come from Chennai and Delhi and Bombay, and so to come here, and of course, it is completely different. Quite clear. I mean, even at things like the railings and the metalwork of the buildings and along the roads, so it's very distinctive. And I was out in College Street yesterday in the bookstores, and you think this is very remarkable. There's nothing equivalent to that in any other city I've been in.
Well, the small publishers and the little stands. And
where publishers started. I've shown where Rupa started many years ago. Yes. Now, of course, in some great office in Delhi. So this is obviously an extraordinary place, and the buildings and the life and the intellectual life actually up in College Street. Went to the coffee house there, talked to a number of booksellers about nature books. They're extraordinarily, it sounds almost pompous to say that, but they're very knowledgeable, and in these tiny little spaces, massive, very interesting books. Yeah. So, I enjoyed it, and I really love spending more time here.
Books that you wouldn't otherwise get to see. I mean, just because of the whole phenomenon of small publishing is, a real part of the publishing landscape over here. More so, I think, than in the Western world.
Much more so. Long may it last, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the publishing industry is not fantastically good at the moment, but I think, the great divisions between large groups and small publishers, I think, which is having some problems, I think. Actually, funny, David Adiga says, of course, that as the Indian market is growing, there'll be fewer books published from India abroad, and because than before, which I thought was quite interesting. I can't work out whether I think it's true or not.
I think yes. I mean, we talked to him last year, the Global Calcuttan, and he was talking about how he sees a lot of room in the market domestically for books, and a lot of room to explore, and that the appetite for consuming fiction here, consuming books in English, I should say, fiction and non-fiction, is increasing as people, more and more people learn English. It's more and more associated with the language of success in India, and so more people, I think, are reading. And previously he was saying that there were kind of 2 kinds of books that were written here. One was sort of the literary kind of fiction novel, and then kind of textbook nonfiction, but nothing in between. And now there are different layers, which is what attracts him.
I think that's right, and I think that actually the most striking thing I think in the past 10 years has been the growth of really interesting nonfiction written by people here. I think that's really important. And there are a number of significant books. Seti did a very good book called Free Man about a labourer in Delhi, which is excellent. And actually, so I think that's been a huge change. I don't quite know, and then the days of some white guy coming here writing a book about India are over, thank goodness, because I do think there were, like I think there were a number of examples, it'd be rude even to mention them, but I think there's kind of pretentious, and as if somehow this extraordinary place could be parcelled up in that way. Whereas there are going to be books on Delhi, Rana Discovery's book in Delhi is very, very good. And I was looking for a book on Calcutta, the similar, that tries to present, and I know Amit Chowdhury's done a book on Calcutta.
Yes.
It's quite a short, modest book. I wanted to, in a way, there are books about Bombay, it'd be very... So one of the things for me that's interesting to be here is to look out for books like that, and think, who could do that? And, talk to different people and so on.
there's so many stories and so many different. I mean, it's a very interesting and complex city, as India is. I mean, there are different. I think the interesting thing about India is that you've got the India of the cities, and then you've got the villages,
Yes.
and then you have the different regions like the seaside, the plains, the hills, the jungle. You know, I mean, there are many different Indias.
It's completely different. I was in Chennai, and I went to the beach in Chennai, which is huge. I mean, and it's totally unlike any other beach I've ever been to. I mean, there's a kind of swimming issue here.
Right.
And the police were going up and down on horses at Chennai Beach, stopping people Marine Beach, I think it's called, stopping people going in the water. I thought it was amazing. And I mean, I really had never seen anything. I mean, it made me sensible, and there was lots of stories about it's very, very dangerous. Well, these are stories that kind of justify the activity. I don't think it's any more dangerous than swimming in England. But the idea that police would go up and down, stopping people in the water. Because in a way, I was interested in that, because I thought India's an extraordinarily unpoliced from the outside. You know, it's the way people drive, and you know, it's fantastically open. But in that one instance, I saw a different India, whereas in England, you know, there are all kind of rules, all fantastic rule-governed society. In a way, being a literary agent, it's like coming here. Part of the project is seeking out things, you know, thinking how. I mean, I used to be a publisher, so in a way, thinking about books about Calcutta. So one's not. I think that sometimes it's interesting when you're active. You're trying to find people who've got interesting things to say, trying to find some way of encouraging them and say to them, "You should do this," because I know all the publishers, and they're busy doing all kinds of things. So I can sort of ferret around, maybe find someone, put together something, and come back and say to David, "Oh, anyone, you know, you should. How about this? This is something you should think about."
Right.
You know, and I have some credibility, and that helps.